you are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Hey, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are.
For Christmas, because clearly these phone alarm clocks don't work. Okay, but anyway, really great having you here. And we've got one new member, Nikki. Nikki's a life coach, and she's from neighboring Benoni. Okay, so Nikki and I are going to be taking Map for Life forward in the Kuleni. I've long been waiting for some assistance to help me grow Map for Life, and I believe the season is right to do that. So, okay. Great. I don't have my Mr. Technical Man. I need my slide changer, please. Okay, so for the rest, thank you, Jason. Thank you very much. For the rest of the session, I'm going to go through a talk and a discussion around finding your way. And then following on that, we'll go straight into a very practical exercise. You notice the pieces of paper on your chairs. And that will be a practical exercise that will be related to finding our purpose and finding our why. Okay? And then we can, I'll give you some map news. There's a lot of exciting stuff that's happening in Map for Life. So I'll share that with you as well. As we speak, Glenn is currently in Edenvale running a masterclass course, which, as you know, is the course that then equips you to do what I'm doing right now, to be able to train others and coach others under the Map for Life banner. So we're quite excited there. There's 5 candidates from all over Africa, but more of that later. Okay, so finding your why. If you have a look at that picture, it's actually amazing how kids ask so often the question, why? From the moment they are born, kids are actually, in fact I believe even probably before they're born, they have this curiosity in it, they have this inquiring mind, they have this exploring mind, that they just want to go out there and soak everything up. I'm fortunate to have 4 grandkids, the youngest being just over 2 boy. I spend a lot of time with him. So as we walk around in the garden, feeding the fish, planting flowers, doing whatever granddads and grandsons do together, he'll often ask me very, very deep questions. So I say, for example, do you see that fish is red? And he wouldn't say, his response is not yes, I see. His response is why. So I give him an answer and I often get caught because he asks so many whys that I run out of answers. But the one thing that I do try and do is not to dampen his spirit and his questioning spirit. And later on I'll chat to you about why I believe children eventually stop asking questions. It's a sad and unfortunate thing, but we'll get to that later. So if you have a look at these kids, I mean, you can just see the expression on their faces. They are really hungry for an answer to their question, why? Contrast that with this. So somewhere between that first slide and this slide, something dramatically has changed. Because when you interact with adults, their whys are fundamentally and totally different to the whys of a kid. So let's explore that a little more. If you just look at that picture and the expressions say it all. On the top right-hand corner, there's a guy who's doing this, right? And I almost, if you've got to put words to that, my words would be, why me? Right? There's some anxiety there. It's why me? this guy on the far left, my left there, is clearly in big trouble, right? What did I do? Why don't you talk to me, right? It's not inquiring, it's not exploring, it's deep questioning, okay? This guy at the bottom, yeah, is, I don't know, why not? Maybe he's considering to do something, etc. And we can go through all of them. The point is, a child's why is fundamentally different to an adult's why. And I believe that the way we were created is more like the child. And if you take any child in any part of the world, any nationality, they will always be curious, they will always ask the question why. So it's not a country thing, it's not a Western thing or an Eastern thing. I believe it's in our DNA. I believe that when God created us, He created us with this innate desire to question, to explore, and ultimately to live life to its fullest. Okay. But sadly, we reach a certain point in our lives, most of us, where that curiosity flame, if you can call it, is extinguished. Now, statistics show that as early as the age of 12, the questioning mind has been stifled. And the whole thing is turned around. And it's interesting, there are quite a few studies that are done around why this actually happens. And I picked up just one and I thought, wow, I think this one is really spot on in terms of... So it is a fact that whatever we reward is encouraged and reinforced. Okay? Just think of your school days. When a teacher asks you a question, and let's use that one that I've used as an example there. A typical question a school teacher would ask a pupil is, what is the shape of the earth? Right? And Oren would say, sir, it's flat. And the teacher would say, where on earth do you come from? No, in fact, there were people who did believe that the earth was flat. We know now that it's not. The earth is round, or oval, whatever that scientific term is. The point is, though, that answer was just a dead answer. It's just a factual answer. A more meaningful question would have been, why is the earth round? Can you imagine if that question is asked? What would have gone through that child's mind to say, well, why exactly is it? It doesn't make sense, because if the earth is round, we should be falling off, right? Why don't we fall off? You see what I'm getting to here? But in the schools, we are somehow conditioned to a way of thinking that says, accept the answer and that's it. This is your world. You don't have to know anything more of that. I do believe that society, we are our own biggest enemies. Because if we encourage that type of thinking, and if you think of the great thinkers and the great inventors and the guys who had the biggest breakthroughs, guys like Einstein, they were the guys who asked the questions. They didn't get all the answers, but they kept on asking the questions. And unfortunately, what we do is we submit to a society which says, you know what, it is as it is, live with it. And we end up then leading mediocre, hamster type lives, 9-to-5 types life. Okay, so having said that, I want to move on to my next slide, which is the most important why ever. And I'm sure by now you have an indication of what that why is. And this particular question, this particular why is a why that I believe bugs us from a very early stage. And it nags us. It's almost like this little somebody tagging at our coattails, begging to be answered. And the reason I believe it nags at us and it's relentless in getting a response, again, is because it's in our DNA, right? Is the fact that we were created for something more than just what society expects of us. Just think back to when you were choosing a career, and I'm sure we're all at that age where at some point in time we were in matric, in high school, and we needed to choose a career. Haley and I are in fact mentors to a school in Reicher Park at the moment, and the big question is, you know, what are you going to do next year? What are you going to do next year? So Hilton probably went to his parents and said, Mom and Dad, all excited, I've decided I'm going to become an engineer, right? Hilton's mom and dad said, wow, son, great, great. Engineer, that's a good choice. Now what you need to do is you need to make sure you pass matric, you get university entrance, you're going to need to get a degree, that's going to cost us money, everything else, right? So what Hilton had done, so I'm using as an example, Hilton, Mr. Engineer, what Hilton had done is he'd said this is what, he'd made a statement, right? So this is what I want to become. He had stated his what. I want to be. At no stage, and if any of you have experienced it any different, I'd love to know. At no stage is the response from parents, including my own, is the response, but why? Why do you want to become an engineer? It's merely accept that engineer is a good choice. And who says it's a good choice? Well, society says it's a good choice. Why does society say it's a good choice? Because you can earn a lot of money. It comes with status, you can get prestige, etc., etc. You can buy that first house and that second house in Sandton, in Boksburg, in Benoni, right? So it gives you, and there's nothing wrong with that. The big problem with it, though, is that that may or may not be what Hilton's passion is. So he'll become a very, very unhappy engineer. Good one, but a very, very unhappy one. Bringing the why into the question, Hilton, why really do you want to become an engineer? And if you examine that question as to why, probably could end up as an engineer, but an engineer with purpose. An engineer who's out there to change the world. And Hilton might say, you know what, I've noticed that in the rural areas, infrastructure is lacking. So I want to become an engineer to change the lives of people, to enrich people's lives. It puts a totally different stance on it. The second part, after asking why, talks to purpose. Becoming an engineer talks to fulfilling a need. Simply that. Put the two together and it changes the whole picture. So you've seen this often. I use it often in my Map for Life talks. Rather than why am I here, which is a very passive statement. It's a questioning statement, but it's a passive statement. This is a positive statement. It acknowledges that I'm here and I'm not here by mistake. God created me and He created me for a purpose. And the why then leads to what is that purpose. Okay. So just by subtly changing how we ask questions can make a huge difference in how we approach life and challenges in life. And the answer to this question is all around life purpose. Okay. It's actually sad to realize that the majority of people go through life without having fulfilled their purpose. It really is. And one of the aims, if you like, of Map for Life is to assist people like us to actually discover our purpose first and foremost, and having discovered our purpose, then beyond that, to lead lives that are fulfilling, that are rewarding and enriching. Okay. So this whole submission into compliance, I call it, by society, continues all our lives. And the only way it'll stop is if we as individuals intercept and say, so far and no more. I'm not going to allow society to do this to me. And there are lots of examples. I'll give you one later on of people who have actually done that, who said, this is not who I am. I'm not going to continue like this. I'm not going to allow society to dictate who I am. Just think about it, right? So you graduate as an engineer, now you're out in the job market, and you drop your CV. Just think briefly, what does a CV contain? It contains what you can do, right? What you've done, if you've worked, what your qualifications are, how you've done what you've done, which companies you've worked for, etc., etc. It all contains, again, the what. Can you imagine if I rocked up at a company and I said, listen, guys, I actually want to change the world. And I want you, Company X, Coca-Cola, to help me do that. Do you think they'd listen to me? The more progressive ones would, I think, eh? To say, oh man, this guy's got a unique approach. In fact, even many companies aren't sure of their why. A lot of companies are just doing the what, and the why, is to gain more money. But you ask them, actually, why are you doing this? No, we're doing it to make profit. Well, why do you want to make a profit? Well, to become rich. Well, why do you want to become rich? Well, to live comfortably. Why do you get what I'm saying? You continue prodding and probing along the why. In fact, a lot of very prominent companies don't know why they do what they do. And I believe that's why the world is in such a mess. Because many of us as individuals don't really know why we do what we do. And that's a question I'm going to ask you later, not to answer here, but to ponder yourselves. So think about it. You can start thinking about it. Why do you do what you do? Simple one. Why did you arrive here this morning? Right? Why did you take the effort of coming here this morning? There's a reason for that. And if you probe into it, it really gets deep into who you are and why you do what you do. You see, the world will have us stop at the what and the how. They shy away from the why. The world has boundaries on us. Glenn often uses this example, and I think it's such a wonderful example of how the world very quickly puts boundaries on our thinking and our approach. He says, take the example of a toddler, a child that's just started crawling, right? So you're out on the porch and you're having, I don't know, a meal or whatever you're having there, and you want the child to have a bit of freedom. But the floor is fairly cold, so you take this rug, mat, you put it on the floor, you put your sweet baby on it, crawling by the stage. What is the natural instinct of that baby? To crawl off, right? What's the natural instinct of the mother? Pull back. Immediately, boundaries set. You know, this is your world, and if you take that analogy into society, I'll tell you what, even our employers do that, right? And I mentioned the CV. So you go, and now you get the job, right? And what's the first thing you're given when you're given a job? Job description, right? What does the job description contain? Exactly. It tells you what? It tells you this is how you will do this, right? Not negotiable. This is how you do it. And by the way, if you forget or you ignore it, here's the disciplinary code, right? So they not only threaten you and say, if you don't do it this way, don't ask, just do it. This is the disciplinary code. This is how we're going to handle you, okay? So it's that reward punishment type thing. I mean, that's the way the world operates. Can you imagine if a company said to you as you walked in, Hilton, why do you want to work for us? Right? At the interview, why do you want to work for us? And Hilton says, yeah, you know, I think you guys are doing so much good work out there. It aligns with what I see, my vision for a new world. It's got absolutely nothing to do with engineering, really, but we can use engineering to make a difference out there and change the world. It makes such a big difference. Thankfully, though, I'm seeing more and more companies actually doing that, and they're listening, and they're saying, well, it's not just about the what, it's about the why, and it's why are the individuals that want to work for us actually working for us so they can fit in. Okay. So the next two sections I want to cover is two things. One is how to help us find our life purposes, because often people say to me, but what is this life purpose thing? It's not a magic wand, it's not a quick fix. It's something that you discover, it's something that's in you, and you'll see later on I describe some of the characteristics of a life purpose. Okay, so it's not a formula. It's definitely not a formula. It's something that's in you. It's in your DNA. It's part of you. It's innate, etc. Okay, but let's go through this. And here's my acknowledgement to this lady. I stumbled across her thanks to Google, and I would encourage you to look up. She's got some excellent work. She started off, I think, as a teacher, and then she ended up doing some accounting work for a Fortune 100 company. She had a very good job. She was really going up. Her career was progressing, and then at some point, 2008, she says, she just decided this is not her. She's not getting fulfillment. She's not getting the satisfaction she's getting. She's got a good job in China, traveling the world, earning a decent salary, but still there was that emptiness. There was no fulfillment. She then decided she was going to do blogging, and specifically the subject of her blogging was life purpose. She is now the most followed English-speaking Chinese blogger. She's got, I don't know how many books she's actually written, but if you look at her site, the other interesting thing about her is that she's very generous with her material, which shows her genuineness. There's about a dozen ebooks that I came across that she says, use them, use them, share them with others, etc. So yeah, acknowledgements to her. Just an interesting stats as well is that there's about 152,000 titles, book titles, on Amazon on life purpose. That's a lot of books, eh? I think the only ones you'd find more on that is how to make money, how to become rich quickly. Those are the ones that probably double that. But it's interesting that the whole life purpose discussion is becoming more and more prominent in society in general. And the reason for that is because people are getting sick and tired of society imposing things on them that God didn't mean for us. We should, as Christians in particular, take our guidelines from God and not from society. And if those are in conflict, we should dump society's ones and follow God's. Okay, so let's go. How to find life purpose. The first one, it is a starting point of life, a first step towards your most conscious life. So we all live, right? The fact that we're here, we all live. The fact that we're all here, we're breathing. So we're alive, thank goodness. But are we just living, or are we leading meaningful lives? And she uses this word consciousness quite often, and it's something that I really like. I've shared it with you guys as well. Being intentional about what we do, being conscious of what we're doing. I think I shared it with you in the context of living in the now, living in the moment, being very conscious of what's happening around us at any one point in time. Okay. So here, there's two analogies that I want to use, and they're both from Stephen Covey. The ladder analogy has been there for years. Stephen first used it in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he has this analogy of a ladder. He says, you can place a ladder up against any wall. Now think about it, right? So here's your house, and you've got a leak in the roof. And you know more or less where that leak is. You need to repair it. So let's say, for example, that leak is on the southern side. that's a sign. That's a release of a leak in the roof. Let's say it's on the southern side of your house, right? Where would you place the ladder? It seems obvious, is it? It does. But how often in life we know that that's where we should be going, but we place our ladder elsewhere, on the northern side, and hope to achieve fixing the roof. So it's absolutely critical that when we start off in life, we start off in the right position. So when we start climbing the ladder, we're close to 100% sure that that ladder is going to lead us to the right point in the roof. Okay? Otherwise, it's meaningless. It's just going to be a nice joyride, riding a ladder. Up the ladder, yeah, here I am. Okay, where's the leak? Oh, it's not here. Another one, which Kavi also uses, is the forest one. Have you heard that one, the forest one? So there's this group of guys that are somewhere in the Amazon, and they are tasked with clearing part of the forest. Okay? So off they go. And they've got all their sharp saws, whatever they use to clear forest. And they're chopping away. Bang, bang, bang. And this forest is thick, right? And one of them decides to just check, which forest were we told to clear? So he climbs the tree, and he looks around, and he gets his bearing, and he shouts down to his mates. He says, guys, I've got bad news. Wrong forest. Right? Point is, they've spent weeks, months, clearing a forest, but getting nowhere. Right? Let's get back to our lives. Sometimes we spend a lifetime, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, living life, but getting nowhere. And when I say getting nowhere, I don't mean materially, I mean getting nowhere in terms of fulfillment and the purpose for which we were already brought on here. So the starting point is absolutely essential. How am I doing for time? Tom Tiss says having a purpose is the difference between making a living and making a life. And the tendency in society is make a living, you know. Boost that bank balance. Go on those. I'm not saying that's bad, don't get me wrong. It needs to be done in the context of purpose. And in fact, the strange thing is, or the interesting thing is, or the exciting thing is, when you're following purpose, everything else follows you, right? You attract things like money. You attract things like good people, and you attract good networks if you are walking within your purpose. Because people look at it and say, well, hang on. We want that. We want whatever that individual has. We want some of that. We can associate with that. We can trust that individual, etc., etc. Okay. Right. Clarity on what's important versus unimportant. Again, from Kavi, one of my favorite authors, he has this quadrant. And on the top left, it's important and urgent. Important but not urgent. So the top two quadrants are the ones that one would aim for, because these things are both important. And why are they important? Because they help me fulfill my purpose. The bottom two are the ones we should avoid. Urgent but not important. Not urgent and not important, leave out completely. Okay. Time is limited. Time is a valuable asset. And therefore our focus needs to be on what's important and not important and urgent, and then important, not necessarily urgent. Those are the longer term things that one puts in place in pursuit of purpose. Okay, to live a life of meaning. Again, I think this is very self-explanatory. You know, God, as I've said earlier, God has meant for us to live meaningful and purposeful lives. Is to live intentional lives. And having a purpose allows us to do that. You know, we're not just in the hamster wheel, getting up every morning and saying, another one, next day another one, when's the weekend coming, okay, another one, Sunday go to church, Monday back to work, etc., etc. You can do that, but you do it with a different focus and a different passion. Okay, constant drive and passion. If you come across people who are walking in or very close to their purpose, there's a certain energy about these people. You know, there's a certain positiveness about them. It's not that they don't go through life's difficulties and challenges in life, but the way they approach life is different. And the reason for that is they're focused. They know why they're here. They can see the bigger picture. You know, if you can't see the bigger picture, it's very, very difficult in this time in which we live to keep positive and to keep focus, etc. And that enthusiasm and that energy is contagious. It clearly is. So just as some advice, surround yourself with positive people. They will help you begin to discover and walk in your purpose. Okay. Last one in this one is achieving significance. Again, this is something in Map for Life we often talk around. The world will focus on success. So be successful, and the way it defines success is, as we've said before, is mainly in material things and status, etc. We believe in significance, in leaving a legacy, in making a real impact. Interesting thing about purpose as well, it's very often not about ourselves but about others. Okay, and in the last section there's some more discussion around that. It's more about others. And think about the great people as well. Think about Mother Teresa. Even somebody like Bill Gates, who's not necessarily a Christian. I'm not sure what his background is, but he is so focused on needs of other people. So he's just using his riches. And one wonders why. Well, why is Bill so rich? Well, because he gives money away freely. He's got a purpose. He wants to save the world. He wants to cure all these diseases, etc. He's a wonderful modern-day example of somebody who's, at a very early stage, grasped his purpose. What was his tagline? ITE. His tagline was, I want a PC in every house by a certain time. He's so close. He's so close. You know, I think, yeah, I mean, he had that vision, and he was so focused, and he made millions out of it. He's now taking his millions and he's fulfilling his real vision. I don't think his purpose was just to put the PCs there. He had a bigger vision of changing the world and making it totally devoid of diseases. Bill, oh, you one there, I'll give you a plug. Not that he needs it. Okay, so tips on how to define. This is there's 6 here, okay, and I summarize them right at the end. So if you want to take one shot at the end, that's cool. The first thing is it needs to resonate with you, and deeper than that, you need to feel a sense of, I love doing this. Right? Indication of that is then it's your purpose, and it could be. Okay, I won't get into that now. So if you could answer the question, if I have something to do for the rest of my life without getting paid a cent for it, what would that thing be? Right? What would that thing be? And that's part of your exercise later. You're not going to pay me, but I'm going to do it all day, every day for the rest of my life. What would that thing be? It needs to resonate with you. You need to love it. And the reason for that is because, again, it's innate. It's coming from inside of you. It's not being imposed on you by somebody else. The second one is it needs to be limitless in entity, time, and space. And I've given a few examples here because some of these are difficult to grasp until you get examples. So this one in particular, if my purpose is around my family, it's confined just to family. It's too confined. Okay, why not a purpose that says humankind? So I'm going to change the world, and I'm going to start in Boksburg. I'm going to change the world, and I'm going to start with my family. I'm going to change the world, I'm going to start with my kids. I'm going to start with my spouse, etc. Nothing wrong with that. But it needs to be limitless in terms of the impact. Okay. Next one is a physical lifespan. You know what? Timeline. Nikki, I'll introduce you to my timeline at some stage. But the timeline speaks to eternity. Okay? And purpose speaks to eternity. There's that one book, are you still reading it? Living in Eternity. So what we do now is, yeah, that's it. We just finished it. Okay, you need to share it with us at some stage, your findings. Okay. But he states in that book that whatever we do now, in this world, now, in this life, impacts eternity. So whatever we do now, if that's aligned to purpose, and purpose is aligned to God's plan for us, perfect. Perfect. Because then we spend eternity with God, having fulfilled our purpose, and having achieved all that He wanted us to achieve. It all fits together. It's just like, it's just so exciting, actually, when you think about it in the sense of eternity. That what I'm doing here is not really to accumulate wealth, which eventually is going to fade away. I'm not going to be able to take it with me. In any case, the type of things that I'm going to take across, the type of areas that I've sowed my life into, have an internal impact. That's all around legacy. Okay. And then the last one is location. That one I've mentioned as well. So, you know, it's all very well starting in Boksburg. It's all very well starting in Benoni. But really our vision, our painting canvas should be the universe and beyond. Okay, so our Map for Life vision is to reach 200 countries by 2020. And we're well on our way there. So we're looking global, we're not looking local. And the reason for that is because we can. And the impact we want is, we want a huge impact. We don't want a dent in we want a huge impact. Okay, third one needs to be visionary. And again, in Map for Life, we have the vision board process. The whole vision board process is really to start triggering and igniting this big thinking. Okay, it's not in the fact that it's a dream holiday in Hawaii per se. It's really all about what that means and how to achieve it. Okay, so think big, beyond your wildest dreams. And if it's so big, you know, somebody said, if your vision is not big enough, it's not from God. And the reason for that is because God has said, whatever He gives us, He'll equip us, right? So our vision should be far bigger than we ever imagined. So think big. Specific, not vague. I think this is clear. And a good example this lady gives, she says, if you have a vision or a purpose like carpe diem, you know carpe diem, seize the moment. I love that term. It just says so much, and I use it often in my profiles, wherever, etc. It's good, but that's not a purpose. It's just a nice fuzzy saying. Seize the moment. It's not a purpose. A purpose needs to be very specific. Is I want to change the world, make it a better place by ridding it of all diseases. Very specific. That's what I want to do. Or I want to change the world by educating people to live more empowered lives. That's a purpose. Okay, almost there. 5 is direction. So purpose is not an end state. And this has helped me deal with purpose often, because I often also get frustrated with saying, I'm just not living in my purpose. Well, I've changed that thinking to say, I am moving towards living in a perfect purpose, my perfect purpose. Not there yet, it's a journey. Okay, goals are destinations, purpose is a journey. So here's a good example. If becoming a teacher, I want to become a teacher, that's a goal. So I need time, I need 3 years education, it's very fixed, okay? The next statement is more of purpose. Educating and empowering people is a person. So if I say my purpose is to assist teachers to educate and empower others in their lives, that's a purpose. So it hasn't got an end. It's open-ended. It's a journey. Okay, doesn't mean it must be vague. It's just that from a time perspective, it has no end really. This is I love this one. And this is the final one. It's rooted in love and not fear. So if you just think about work, it's a funny one actually, because in work, what do they use? They use the carrot and the stick, right? Do this, and we'll give you a carrot. Don't do it, and we'll throw the book at you, right? As opposed to life purpose, which says, if you love what you do, you'll do it. No fear, no pressure, etc. The only pressure that is put on you is by yourself. And that's typically good pressure. It's just, I need to have a purpose. I need to understand why God has put me here. I sometimes think, you know, and I sometimes pray, I guess, wrongly, God, why didn't you, when I was born, just somehow, via a WhatsApp note or whatever technology you use, tell me what my purpose is? Just in a one-liner, say, Terence, this is what I want you to achieve for me in this time that I've given you on this earth. That would have been so different, eh? It wouldn't have been a challenge though, and I reckon, you know, we wouldn't have gone through the growth that we go through when we seek purpose and we pursue purpose, because it is a growth process. And it's catchy, because as soon as you've got a glimpse of what your purpose is, you want to go out there and, everybody, man, come on, guy, you got to find your purpose, because it makes such a difference in one's life. Okay, I think I'm just about close. This is that one slide that summarizes them all. And if you just test your purpose with these, you'll come pretty close. Okay. And here's another thing: only you can be sure that you're moving towards your purpose. Nobody else. Other people will notice a change in you. They'll notice that you have a new energy. They'll notice that you are focused, etc. And they'll ask why. And you know, you have then an opportunity to share with them. Okay, it's my favorite animal, the lion. Here's an animal that knows exactly what its purpose in life is, right? What do you think its purpose is, this guy? He's got a singular purpose, and this is, yeah, animals normally have a singular purpose. They know what they're there for. What do you think his is? In one word. Balance, eh? Okay, there's one, yeah. Survival. Why? Why? Sorry?
To be the best, to be the top.
To be the top, why? Sorry, I'm testing this. So you outlost everybody, why? Please help, guys. So this is the whole why question. So as you probe more and more and more, you'd find out that a lion is so focused. Sorry? Want to rule? Yeah, why? Why?
Siblings.
Sorry? Siblings. Siblings, right? One purpose. It's procreation that a lion has. Everything else the lion does is because of that. He protects his territory, he hunts, feeds his pride, etc. He wants to make sure his genes are carried to the next. That's his purpose. Yeah?
So it's the ultimate network. Grows his pride.
Exactly. He grows his pride. What he has more partners to procreate with. Think about it. It's not, all the other stuff is periphery. It's the what and the how. His main purpose, once he's done that, he leaves a legacy. He, in fact, painfully, is often thrown out of the pride. Because he served his purpose, done, gone. Thank God, in our human lives, that's not what happens. We are welcomed into the kingdom. Welcome, good and faithful servant. Come and receive your crown. Totally different ending. But a lion's focus is so, and if you look at photos of lions, yeah, you know, they're so focused when they're doing what they do. But if you can just ask why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? All comes down to passing on those wonderful genes that they've got naturally in them to the next generation. Okay. I thought I'd just leave the lion analogy with you guys. And the missing link, we believe, the missing link in enabling us to find our purpose is Map for Life. It's been tested, it's been proven. We've got a lot of testimonies around it. And we want to share it. We want to share it with the world. Okay, this is my favorite little mascot. I must actually replace it with a pic of my grandson. Who asks why and why and why. Okay guys, so let me, before I close off and ask, can I just ask, let me give you an assignment. We've got time. Use the next 10 minutes, right? You've got a piece of paper there, there's pens. I'm going to give you pens if you haven't got them. And just ask yourself the question. Here I am, why? And ask it in the context of your life, not being here at this point in time. Ask it in the context of your life. And you're not going to share it with anybody, it's going to be yours. But every time you write down an answer, right, ask the question again, why? Okay? So let me give you an example. If I say my purpose, I am here, rather, stated in that way, I am here on this earth to raise my kids or raise a family, right? Statement. Why? Okay? And you could say, why do you want to raise a family? Because I want to leave a legacy. Why? I want to ensure my kids and family are taken care of. Why? Okay, you get the drift. Just ask whys until you can't anymore. Okay, and in that process, you would have gotten closer. I'm not saying you would have gotten to your purpose. In fact, some of you might have your purpose. Some of you might know your purpose, and at some point in the future, maybe, if you're willing to share with us that purpose, it'll be great. I believe what I'm doing now is in my purpose. What I do on Monday is not in my purpose. I know that. And I've been doing it for 40 years. I know that. But the nice thing about purpose is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Finding it gives you the fulfillment that it gives anybody. Okay, so can I leave you with that? And thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your attention. And really, you know, let's share this. And it's so good to share stories, even outside of this group, to say this is how I'm doing. You know, this is what I discovered about life purpose. This is something new I discovered. And did you know? Ask the question why. Ask the question why. Thank you very much.
I worship you. I worship you. Hey, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness.